Roxanne, you don't have to take down the sheets now. Roxanne, there's some weird creature around. Roxanne, get in the house right now. Roxanne, get in the house right now. Oh shit, there's blood all over the ground. Roxanne. Well, The Curse was written and directed by Sean Ellis, stars Boyd Holbrook, Kelly Riley, Alistair Petrie, I'm pretty certain I mispronounced that, and Roxanne Duran, not Duran Duran. Her name is not Rio, her name is Roxanne. She does not have to put on the red dress anymore. She does not have to dance across the sand. Amelia Crouch is also in this. She was a teenage Kate that was in the Netflix original Kate that starred Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Very terrific movie. Check that out. But this is about The Cursed. And Max McClintock is also in this, along with many other actors, which is basically the same thing as any other movie that has a fairly large cast, whether extras or otherwise, unless you're doing a found footage movie with just a few people like the Blair Witch Project. Let's talk about The Cursed. So it's set in rural 19th century France, and Boyd Holbrook's character, John McBride, is a pathologist, and he has arrived to address some issues going on in this small village where, well, you have Seamus Laurent, and it's not the shameful thing, lobster head. You are not going to be a careless man and wind up dead. You're not going to go too far north. There's not too many limes, too many. Boy, I totally screwed that up for any wrestling fans that are watching this. That's played by Alistair, and he has a settlement here. He has a big house. He has other quarters for the maids to stay in, like Ananis. I'm pretty certain I'm going to mispronounce a couple of these names wrong because there's a lot of stuff dancing in my head as far as after watching this movie just a few hours ago. That's Roxanne Duran, who very, very lovely redhead, and I need to see more of what apparently she's in a show called Rivera, so I need to check that out. But she had a very good star quality about her. And in this movie, basically you have John McBride, Boyd's character. He's a pathologist. He's trying to figure out what's going on in this village because this village is besieged. I'll get into spoilers here in a little bit, and unfortunately some of the spoilers happen in the beginning. There's a certain incident that happens that leads to this particular village being, well, kind of taken over by something where the townspeople are really, really scared by either a ghost, a spirit, a creature, or something. Maybe a combination of all three. You don't know, unless you've seen the movie and you're wondering what I'm thinking of it. But this is a nice, indie-rific, tense, atmospheric, visually striking, gore-filled piece that Sean Ellis actually has, hit a lot of high marks in. I'm not familiar with Sean Ellis. I looked up his IMDb. I hadn't seen any of the other movies he did. I'll probably have to check out some of that stuff at some point. But I literally heard about this movie a week ago. Friend of mine sent it to me. My friend Roxy, terrific friend. Consider her one of my best friends. She's awesome. She's a horror fan like I am. She sent me this. She's like, "Are you going to see this?" So I checked out the trailer and said, "Well, I am now." And I went in completely blind. I'd obviously just seen the trailer. I didn't read up anything else or read up on anything else about it. I just said, fuck it, I'm going to go watch it. So I was there with one of my longtime friends, and there were two other people in the theater. And a theater to seat about 120 people. So, I mean, then again, it was 1 p.m. on a Friday, so what the fuck do you expect? So with this movie, how is it? How is it like, is it just, indie-rific? Did they actually did they actually do some good stuff with it? Is it your typical creature feature? Is it ghostly? What is it? That'll come kind of in the spoiler section. But since it's set in 19th century France, obviously there's not the electricity. There's just, there's the candle stuff. And there's a lot of farmland and everything. And there are a lot of people that have a lot of secrets to hide. And also there's this blight upon the land that just hangs over these people. And a lot of them had nothing to do with it. Now, there are certain people that, hasten these particular events that made things a whole lot worse and shit be whack-yo. That's how the kids say it, isn't it? Now, they would have said it back then, but, well, Seamus has to protect his family. Isabel, his wife, Kelly Riley, their maids, and their kids, Charlotte, played by Amelia, and then Edward, played by Max. And they're playing and everything, and we also kind of get a couple different time periods here that actually all tie together really, really nicely, I want to say. But certain things happen where this family gets a little bit fractured, And then it becomes more of an unraveling and everything, and we have to figure out how John McBride's, that character fits in. And as things become more and more, there's some stuff that's told to us. In fact, quite a bit of it's told to us in the beginning and in the next few minutes. And then we have to figure out if the characters are smart enough to gather what's going on here. So I do have to say, though, I really did enjoy this. I came in not completely blind, but outside the one trailer, whatever. I really ended up enjoying this because as far as the type of movie that it ended up being, it subverted expectations and did a lot of really, really good building with the characters and used its atmosphere well, used its time period very well. And given the spins that it did on the tropes that this movie, tried to tackle, I think it did a lot of great shit. And Sean Ellis, this is what he can do with, I assume a small budget movie. I mean, maybe it costs $5-10 million, but I mean, hell, the first Halloween only cost $350,000 in 1978 money. If you're smart and you have ingenuity and you have the right pieces and the components, you can make something work even with a small budget. I don't know what the budget of this movie was, but it made the most of what was going on. And it had great camera work, great cinematography, very, very technically sound, and there was a lot of skill in this cast. And I haven't enjoyed a movie like just out of nowhere like this in a while, like as far as a horror movie, like basically since The Cleansing Hour, which is a great movie on Shudder you should check out after you check out The Cursed. That was something that surprised me. And this, while the Cleansing Hour had really good horror, really good gore, had a little bit more humor, this didn't have so much humor. This was straight up horror, and when it got bleak, it got bleak. The gore, the practical effects, very well done. Are there a couple issues? Sure. I mean, there are some characters that weren't all that fleshed out. They used the dream sequence thing a little too much, and I get why they do it. It does tie into the story, but eventually it felt like where I'm like, okay, we get it, but that's a minor quibble. They also, it wasn't stretched out, but it almost felt like it felt like they could have added a couple more things to some of the characters, and then it's just like suddenly we accelerate shit and boom, just stuff happens, and we have to hasten ourselves towards the end because we have to wrap the whole thing around from the very beginning. There were a couple pacing issues, but overall, I really did enjoy the movie a whole lot more than I expected, because again, when you don't know much about a movie, you can either watch it at home and be like, okay, this is kind of lame. I mean, believe me, there's a lot of movies I saw like that, or like I said about this, you could see something that pleased me just as much as The Cleansing Hour did. Surprised me. Really, really goddamn good. So I'm going to say this. It's very good. It's probably going to be out on streaming at some point. If you get a chance to see it in theaters, it's well worth your time. Sure, it has a bit of a slow build at parts, but there's also enough that it gives you in the opening, few scene sequences that'll latch on you, that will be like, okay, how does this factor in? How's this? So it's like, oh shit, well, this is all going on. And you get to find out pretty quickly who the real jackasses are, and that maybe you shouldn't piss off a certain group of people. That much I'll say. So I am going to get into spoilers, but absolutely check it out. If you get a chance to check it out in theaters, please do. But definitely give it a shot if it's on streaming, since I think it'll probably be out on streaming within a month. But now I'm going to get into spoilers. So spoilers. Go check it out. Absolutely do. But spoilers. Well done, Sean Ellis. Spoilers. Okay, so these spoilers are going to be pretty quick. You ever seen this? Well, congratulations. There's a plot device that kind of gets referenced there. The Beast of the Gavardan. Or Gavardan, I think is actually how it's said. The wolf that plagued this mountain French town. Well, now we got the story of this beast, and John McBride is tied into that. His wife and child were caught in, basically, caught in the middle of the whole damn thing, and they died, and he's trying to atone for that. Earlier in the movie, you have Seamus, who finds out that, along with some, friends of his, some colleagues, that there are gypsies living on this part of the settlement land, and they claim the land is theirs, and they're speaking Romanian, I believe, or some guy, I think it is Romanian. They say muerta instead of muerte, and a friend of mine who actually speaks a little bit more Romanian told me that, so I'm like, okay, I mean, so if I'm wrong, then she was misunderstood, but they are speaking a different language, and they just basically want to settle right there. They don't want to cause any trouble, it seems. We don't really get to see much of them, because Seamus takes a whole bunch of his friends and says, we're going to burn this bitch down. And they burn it down. And then they cut off the husband's hands and put a bag over his head and make him a scarecrow. Also, in the very beginning, we have a 1917, trench war where a guy gets shot. And he seemingly gets shot with silver bullets. We're like, that's a little bit weird. And then the whole thing with the gypsies happen. And the woman is buried. The woman's fucking buried, and she's buried with this thing of silver teeth. And there's a curse put upon the land. If these teeth are ever recovered, boy, shit's gonna be whack. And the silver was apparently passed down from Judas. I mean, now that's something a little bit weird, but whatever. There are some Bible verses and Ezekiel 20:22 and other stuff. Look it up, kids, if you want to look it up. I'm not going to recite a chapter and verse because I'm not a religious person. But I do know those particular ones, and I get why they include them here. From there, we have this curse put upon the land because a woman's buried alive, this gypsy woman. So eventually, people are having a whole bunch of nightmares and everything in the house and in the settlement, nearby. And they're kind of isolated in this small French village. And basically what happens is one day, this one boy finds the teeth, goes out with a whole bunch of them like Edward, Charlotte, and other kids. And he swears, please don't tell, please don't tell. And then he grabs the teeth, he puts them in his mouth, and he bites Edward. Don't know why. Apparently the curse makes you unhinge your jaw, take your own teeth out so you can put other teeth in. Or these teeth just went around your own teeth. It was never exactly explained. But he bites Edward, and since these things are cursed with a gypsy curse, suddenly Edward turns into a werewolf-type creature thing, where actually the werewolf, it's a husk, that, where weird tendrils come out and wrap around and everything, and actually hold the body of the person in the stomach, like almost in a cocoon, while this werewolf husk takes over. And that's not the only one. Other people get bit. The beautiful Roxanne Duran, she gets bit later on in the movie. Things start to go south. John McBride comes in, and eventually he unravels that, hey, Seamus, you were the one that did this. It's going to keep coming after you because, oh yeah, these gypsies cursed you. And that's pretty much it right there. I will say, though, as far as how they pace this movie, again, despite the pacing issues I said earlier, this was very well paced. There were just a couple But again, when you have this many positives and that few negatives just right there, you're not really going to have much to complain about. And also, I think it just comes down to, trying to reinvent the wheel. Basically, it is a werewolf story. And since, Brotherhood of the Wolf, since that was about a wolf and everything, that was a lot longer. It was like 2.5 hours. This was like an hour and 45 minutes. And obviously there's more money behind Brotherhood of the Wolf, and there's nothing wrong with that. This was a very good Gothic indie horror movie that had great atmosphere and had very good gore. The gore, there were broken limbs. There was a lot of blood. They definitely nailed that shit. And they nailed a lot of stuff here. This was goddamn good. And eventually we find out the person that got shot in the beginning was Edward. Even though Edward turned into a werewolf, what happens is the curse got broken because both the parents died because there was this firefight in a church, and John McBride had to shoot through the mother to shoot the husk that was holding Edward. And then what happened is, Edward was freed. Despite the fact that there were earlier indications that you had to shoot the person that was in the werewolf husk, or, they would just get mutated again or whatever. They would never be the same. Yet Edward was the same. And then Edward grew up to be a general, and then he got shot. And it was weird. Maybe they were hinting at a sequel. I mean, it had a good wraparound. It kind of reminded me of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, but with less humor. And that's not the worst thing, because, the movie like this is kind of hard to do humor. I am, however, going to say an A. Despite any things, any issues that I had with it, I'm going to say an A. It was waffling between A- and an A, but I decided to go with A because it was just really, really enjoyable. Very, very good. I hope that Sean Ellis gets a chance to do more stuff and hopefully get more of this cast doing stuff. Boyd Holbrook was very good. And Roxanne Duran, let's get her in more stuff. She's got a great look. But no, A for sure. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.